Somewhere in Japan, we are introduced to Joe and Sandra, two scientists who work at a local power plant. They have their usual morning routine as they talk a bit and plan to celebrate Joe's birthday later that day. Already looking forward to a fun evening. They also talk a bit about their son, who is apparently an army ranger far away. Soon they head to work, where Joe heads to the control center. He is informed by his fellow workers that an unusual seismic activity is being monitored that's gradually becoming stronger. They do a bit of inspection and guess what could possibly be the cause of this. When a possible kaiju threat is being discussed, Joe denies this since it's known how nuclear power has been a weapon against them for years. They should be scared off when sensing it. When suddenly a far worse quake is felt, causing slight damage to the facility, Joe is gobsmacked and has no idea what's going on. It can be a kaiju, it simply can be. When it happens again, he gives the order to evacuate the power plant. It's simply too dangerous. An intense moment follows as the emergency sirens sound over the entire town, and people can feel these seismic quakes happening more and more frequently, even causing major damage to buildings and streets. Joe reaches Sandra's office and the two of them run as fast as they can to the exit of the building. Soon they reach their car and we follow them as they witness the entire power plant slowly collapsing around them. People die left and right, but Joe and Sandra luckily manage to avoid the debris and get out of the power plant. It's quickly revealed how the entire town is being hit by this earthquake and that nowhere is safe. The sirens keep sounding loudly as Joe and Sandra reach their house and quickly try to get as much of their belongings as they can. They even try to call somebody, but the earthquake gets far too intense and they are forced to flee the town, as many other people are doing as well. A very hectic scene follows as Jen and Sandra get in their car and ride towards a bridge out of the island where the town was located. Buildings collapse, streets crack open, and many people perish all around them. The car even almost falls into one of the deep cracks in the ground, but luckily the couple manages to head over the bridge and reach the mainland safely. The final moment is when the couple stares in the distance and witnesses the entire town collapsing as if it's being swallowed whole by the very earth itself. They're shocked and can't believe what they're seeing. It's revealed to be 1 year after the events of the first episodes. We get several news fragments that show us how the kaijus have grown bigger and stronger and more dangerous. Nuclear weapons no longer affect them, as do most of mankind's efforts. The Jaegers are the only remaining ways of attack, but even they have been proven to be less effectful. We see dozens of destroyed Jaegers all over the world. All sense of pride and hope that was so powerful a mere year ago has all been shattered and destroyed. Mankind is losing. In Hong Kong, we see another large military headquarters where the largest amount of Jaegers is being stored away. In one of the laboratories, we are introduced to Dr. Newton Geisler. He searches non-stop for ways to communicate with the kaijus and eventually finds a way to destroy them as well. Although he lacks the resources to make his experiments work, he does have a lot of motivation and curiosity. It's soon reported how there has been another kaiju fight along the Great Coastal Wall of Hong Kong itself. And this startles Newton, and he quickly grabs his stuff and urges his assistants to move out. They need to get their hands on some of that kaiju substance. Along the massive coastal wall that has been built previously to keep kaijus out of cities, we just witnessed another kaiju getting killed by the Jaeger striker Eureka, piloted by Chuck and Vice Admiral Herc Hansel, son and father. They are cheered on by many of the people in the streets as we witness the aftermath of the battle. While the father and son meet with the press, Chuck takes a lot of the credit and still tries a bit to act like a celebrity, but his father subtly tones him down, claiming they can't celebrate after defeating just one kaiju while there are still so many casualties. At the site of the dead kaiju carcass, lots of people from the underground world arrive to scavenge kaiju skin, organs and body parts. You get a short scene where we see how these things apparently sell for great prices and many mafia and criminal leaders profit from this. One of these men is Hannibal Chow, who we are quickly introduced to as he orders his followers to get as much from the kaiju as possible and store it away. That's when Newton and his people arrive to do the same. When he sees how Hannibal has already taken most, he curses him. The professor goes on an entire rant while Hannibal just stares and takes it all in, eventually calling him a buffoon. Newton keeps on exclaiming his anger, but Hannibal assures the man that a time will come when he will need the help of the underground, and on that day, he won't be able to count on any of them. Newton is left alone with nothing to use, and thus his research, once again, can't proceed. Afterwards, Newton arrives back at the military base as he keeps on exclaiming his anger. It's then that he's approached by one of his assistants and one of his closest friends, Nick Tatopoulos, a biologist. He reveals to us how the kaiju attack at Manhattan a year ago has gravely escalated, and now the whole city has been on lockdown for many months since they believe the kaiju there has nested. If they know where the nest is, perhaps they can retrieve much more than just small kaiju tissue. Newton is interested, as they have a whole conversation about it. Soon, he is convinced, and the two head to Admiral Stacker to ask for support. At Stacker's office, the Admiral is having an online gathering with most of the military leaders around the world, including Admiral Stentz. Stacker is trying to convince them how the Jaegers are not obsolete yet and can still provide a very effective counterattack. But since the tide has shifted so drastically, most of the other leaders, partially including Stentz, believe they can't rely on them anymore. Jaegers have simply lost too many fights, not to mention the amount of Jaeger pilots has dropped vastly. They're putting all their faith in the construction of newer and stronger coastal walls and bombs. The meeting ends and leaves Stacker very frustrated. Herc is there as well and tries to ease Stacker into accepting the new reality, but the Admiral remains stubborn. They can't give up. They won't give up. That's when Newton and Nick enter the room and inform the two men on their plan. They wish to enter the forbidden zone that is Manhattan to search for the kaiju that nested there and hopefully gain some kaiju tissue or even egg samples, so they can finally figure out the proper weakness of these creatures. It must be hidden somewhere in their DNA. They both know Jaegers, walls and bombs might win a fight or two, but it'll never have them win the war. Stacker and Herc are very unsure about this since Manhattan has been in lockdown for months and is heavily guarded by the military, but after some convincing, they do agree. Stacker gives them an official permit and wishes them good luck. Do whatever they can to get what they want, and to help win this war. After Newton and Nick leave, Herc is skeptical about the mission, which Stacker understands, but it's not like they have much choice in this day and age. It's then that another sergeant comes barging in and claims several more Jaeger pilots have left the facility. Enraged, Stacker and Herc storm to the barracks, where they indeed find several pilot rooms completely empty. Deserters. They must have lost hope and fled along with civilians. Stacker is extremely angry but manages to keep his cool. Chuck is there as well and mocks the deserters for being cowards and useless. Herc again quickly disciplines him by stating that less pilots also means the bigger chance of them being dead once the new kaiju attack comes. Afterwards, Herc and Stacker have a very serious discussion about the severe numbers of pilots they have. They have several Jaegers to spare but not enough, and even fewer pilots. Stacker knows all of this, and soon leaves for his office alone. He must think. In the city of Hong Kong, Nick heads to the apartment complex where he currently lives, not too far from the military base. He visits his wife, Audrey, who we are introduced to. Audrey is a reporter. They have a rather sweet moment where Nick tells her how he has to leave Hong Kong for a while. At the lab, they believe they have found a way to get their hands on actual kaiju specimens. When told he must go to Manhattan, knowing how dangerous it is, Audrey really isn't keen on letting him go. Nick isn't a soldier, he can't even use a gun. How will he protect himself? Nick understands but assures that Admiral Stacker will take care of them and will most likely send a good protection unit as well. They won't be going alone, that's for sure. It's a moment of drama, but it does show how deeply they care for each other. These are two people who have witnessed several potential end-of-the-world scenarios, and throughout it all, they survived. And so has their love. When saying he has to leave tomorrow at first light, Audrey claims she will not let him go until then. That's when the two share a sweet kiss and eventually also get intimate on the couch. That night, Hannibal is at his own palace in the city center of Hong Kong. He watches over the city at night. Soon, he enters his main vault, where we see tons of kaiju body parts, tissue, and even organs that his men have scavenged throughout the months. It ends with him standing in front of his most prized possession, an actual kaiju brain. He stares at it for a while, knowing the day will come that idiot Newton will come for it. And on that day, his prize will make him an everlasting billionaire. That same night, Stacker is in his office. He stares at a specific picture for a long time, but we don't see what's on it. After thinking for a while, he finally makes his decision and heads down to the archives where all the data of the global Jaeger pilots are kept, including the ones who left service. Ops is there as well. It's revealed he voluntarily left the control room after witnessing the Manhattan disaster a year ago firsthand. Yeah, he does miss the old days, but he simply couldn't bear experiencing anything like that. Not to mention, he lost his closest friend, Chansey. They have a little chat before Stacker tells Ops that he may resume his old station if he wishes, but he won't be alone. He wants every single Jaeger pilot on the Earth contacted and brought here together with their Jaegers. Their program might be going extinct, but at least they will make one final stand all together. Ops is more than happy to oblige and also asks if he needs to contact the pilots who left service. All of them? Stacker nods, except for one in particular. He will visit that man himself. We get a whole moment where we see Ops sending messages to all active Jaeger headquarters around the world. Moscow, Tokyo, Cape Town. All active Jaeger pilots are summoned and called together.